Hey there, it's Laura Dominic. Thanks for joining me on a Plan for Joy podcast. Each week we'll be talking about things that will help you break the cycle of depletion. You know, the one that has you going from doing all the things to feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, resentment, anger, to sucking it up and starting all over again. And instead, learn to break the cycle and contribute from a place of abundance. Are you ready? Good. Let's go. Hello, and welcome to a Plan for Joy podcast. This week, I'm going to ask the question, why are we here? Not why are we here in this podcast, but why are we here at all? So if you studied your Baltimore Catechism, which I did not do until I had children, the answer is to know, love, and serve God in this world and to be with Him for eternity in the next, right? I went on retreat this week. Just came back yesterday, and they talked about being holy, that we all need to strive for holiness. And more importantly, bring as many people as we can with us, right? So it's not even just about us. It's about how many people can we bring with us to heaven. There are many ways to get to this holiness that we're all supposed to attain. But I think one of the things that really needs to be done to help you along the way to holiness is to go on an annual retreat. It's a great way to take stock of where you're at and reset whatever needs to be reset in your life. We need a good plan of life, and a yearly retreat is a great time to do that. And I'm not talking about taking a few days and going away somewhere, like on a beach, which would be really nice. That's important. But that's not the kind of retreat I'm talking about here. I am talking about a spiritual retreat. And here's where I'm going to say it. If you're going to go and take the time and spend the money to do a retreat, then go big. Go big or go home and do the gold standard of retreats, and that's the spiritual exercises of St. Ignatius of Loyola. If you've not heard of them, I will link to some information so you can find out more about that. But that is like what any good retreat is based off of. Now, this year I did something different. I did not go on the spiritual exercises, but I went on a retreat that was based on them. So pretty much the same thing, but next year, I'm pretty sure that I'm just going to go right back to the source, do the spiritual exercises. I've done the those type of retreats for at least 12 years, and I can tell you it is an amazing way to progress in the spiritual life. And so the key here to these retreats I've done with the priests of Miles Christi, and they are silent retreats. And I know that scares a lot of people, because what do they say? I could never be silent for that long. Well, I've heard it so many times. I might have even said it myself at one point because I didn't think I was able to do it. But you know what? If you keep telling yourself that, you're going to be right, because your brain's going to match what you're saying. And if you're saying, oh my gosh, I can't do that because I could never be that quiet, you need to shift your mindset, and that will help you to be able to approach the silence as the gift that it really is. Because and a lot of times too, it's a combination of your mindset and then the grace that's involved and that you receive when you go on a silent retreat. They cooperate, and the grace is what makes it really possible. So sometimes I wonder if people say they could never be that quiet for that long, as a kind of an out, as to not, maybe being intimidated or afraid to do the hard work. Because really, a silent retreat, the spiritual exercises are just that. They're exercises. This is not get a lot of rest and, kind of pamper yourself. It's exercises, mental, spiritual, emotional exercises. But the silence is what makes it so incredibly profound. So, because really, what does silence do? It allows you to really connect with that still small voice. As we hear in the Bible, God comes in that quiet. He needs you to be quiet. And if all you have to do is be quiet for 3 days out of a year, so you can hear that still small voice, then it is definitely worth it. One thing I want to point out, it's not really even just silence of words coming out of your mouth, but it's silence in your head too. And honestly, that silence in your head is a lot harder than the silence in your mouth. So getting all those thoughts to just like stop bombarding you and distracting you and all the, either things you've got, you're thinking about that you should be doing instead of sitting there, or the negative thoughts that might be running through your head, all of that, you need to quiet that. And what better place to do it than in the grace-filled atmosphere of a silent retreat? I'm telling you, it's worth the time and the effort. And what you end up being able to do in this silent retreat is to go into your heart and kind of try to stay out of your head. Sometimes it's easier than others. I've had some, like I said, some retreats, it's easy. I can connect right from the get-go. And I go in and it's just like I'm flooded with all the good things. And then there have been other retreats I've been on where that is like super hard, where I feel like I'm just, the conversation pathway is just not very open. And so sometimes you just got to sit back and say, okay, God, when you're ready, make me ready so I can hear what you're trying to say to me. But it does get frustrating. This retreat that I just went on, it was a silent retreat. And I'm a rule follower. So if someone says be silent, then that's what I'm going to do. Unfortunately, not a lot of other women were very silent. So it was a little bit distracting. So if you're going to go on a silent retreat, really try hard to be silent so you're not distracting to other people. So what are the spiritual exercises like? It's more often than not over a weekend, like Friday night, Friday late afternoon till Monday late afternoon, or I'm sorry, Sunday late afternoon. This one was a midweek one, but basically it's made up of talks given by priests. Then you take those talks and you spend some time meditating on them, and they give you a format for meditation. We pray the rosary. We do an examination of conscience. We do the Stations of the Cross. There's confession. And if you've, I know at least with the Miles Christi priests, they guide you into a general confession, which if you've never done that before is absolutely amazing. And that's confessing all the sins from your whole life. Even if you've confessed them before, they give you the background on that. But it is an amazing thing to do a general confession. And then there's adoration, spiritual direction, hopefully good food. I will say the retreat that I was just on, oh my gosh, the food was amazing. Because there's, I don't know, at least for me, there's nothing more distracting than bad food. You're just trying to ignore it, but ugh. So anyhow, this food was amazing. Hopefully you're going to get some sleep. And I like to go to retreat centers where there's places to walk outside. So you're outside in nature and you're getting sunshine, hopefully, and rest. Even though you do have to do some work, you can get some rest. And so it's really a beautiful experience. And then you come out of it with a plan for your life. You make resolutions of things that you're going to do. And then St. Ignatius recommends certain things like daily mass, if you can, daily rosary, 15 minutes of spiritual reading, 15 minutes of meditation every morning or sometime throughout the day. The morning's the best. So you're going to make these resolutions that you're going to do once you go home. Sometimes you'll go on retreat and you're going to hear something that you just don't want to hear. But you've got to stop. So instead of like shutting the door. Didn't want to hear that. I don't agree with that. I'm not going to listen to you. You need to take a step back and say, okay, God put me here. What am I supposed to get out of this information? So you really need to try and listen. The very first retreat I ever went on, I had 7 kids. My youngest was 3 years old. The priest I went to, very, very stern in a sense, very regimented, let's call it. He said to me, you're a homeschooling mom, right? I said, yes. And he said, well, you should be going to daily mass. And I was like, really, every day? I have 7 kids. He's like, so what? You are the director of your homeschool, right? And I said, well, yeah. And he said, okay, then have them do work, because we at that point lived 30 minutes away from church. So it was an event. And he said, well, so have schoolwork that they can do in the car to and from mass. And I thought, okay, I have 2 choices here. I could say, you don't have a clue, buddy. You don't know what it's like to have 7 kids. You don't know what it's like to get them dressed and drive a half an hour. And really, some days it was terrible and I was crying. But then I said, okay, maybe there's something here I need to listen to. And there's a reason why this priest is telling me that I need to take my kids to daily mass. And so we did. Like I said, I'm a rule follower, so I have a hard time saying, yeah, screw you, buddy. I'm not going to listen to you. So we started that, but it was really hard for me to hear that. And another couple years later, I went, and the priest just started, like, I had a blog for a long time at that point, and he just started slamming on, spending a lot of time on, really at that point, social media wasn't what it is today, but just, on the bloggers and spending all that time. And I was like, we need to talk. So in our spiritual direction, I said, okay, look, I'd spend time blogging, and, I don't really see a problem with it. And besides, I often promote Miles Christi retreats to my blogging people. And he's like, oh. So we had more of a conversation about it. And I took his advice and counsel on the subject of blogging. But sometimes it's hard. Sometimes they tell you things, and you just have to trust that God really has a message for you there, and that it's not just something you don't want to deal with. You really need to sit back and say, okay, what is it you want me to get out of this, Lord? And have an open heart and an open mind. Sometimes I think people, like, I've thought this and have seen others think this, that it's like, okay, I'm going to go on retreat and I'm going to tell God what my plan is, and I want his stamp of approval. That's what this retreat is about. It doesn't work that way. Trust me. You need to just, like I said, be open. Yeah, you can go and say, okay, God, here's what I'm thinking. What do you think? And he'll usually give you a good idea of whether he wants you to change some things or not. And that could come in just something you read. Maybe you're on there and something you're reading scripture, you're reading a book, and it just kind of jumps off the page and slaps you in the face. Could be something you hear in one of the talks. Could be advice from the priest in either confession or spiritual direction. So it's like you're looking for those clues that God's going to give you that will show you what path you're supposed to be on. A good retreat, you will leave like feeling like, I was just in heaven for 2.5 days, and this was amazing. And I've had some of those retreats where you're just like, I'm euphoric. And then there are years where I've gone and it's just like, I'm so disappointed by the last 2.5 days, whether it was my fault or it's just the way it was supposed to be. A couple of years ago, I ended up having to leave the retreat early and ended up in the hospital for a good couple of days. Not related to the retreat, but I had to sit back and go, okay, God, what was that all about? You couldn't have better timing. So God wants to tell us something, no matter how it goes. There's a message in there. We just need to sit back, like the priest said this the other day in this retreat, was, what is the message here for me? the priest is up there saying his thing, and you need to flat out ask, okay, God, what is it you want me to understand from all of this? And then, spend some time in prayer and quiet. And you'll probably get the answer. If not during the retreat, sometime after, it'll be like, boom, something jumps up at you and you're like, oh, I get it now. It makes so much sense. So look at your retreat kind of like an annual physical. You're going in to check in with the greatest physician there is, and he's going to heal your soul and help you to be a holier person and help you to be the woman he created you to be, right? That's what this retreat is about. So I would encourage you to look around. There are, like I said, Miles Christi priests, that's all they do is preach the spiritual exercises. The retreat I was just on was an Opus Dei retreat, which was very, very similar to, because Saint Jose Maria Escriba at some point had done the spiritual exercises. So the retreat I went on was very similar to that. There might even be other groups of priests who do preach the spiritual exercises. So just look around. If you ever encounter that and you have the ability to go, then I would highly suggest that you do that. Consider it a call to spend the time and the money to go on this annual retreat. And there are other good retreats out there. I'm not saying, if the only thing you have available to you is a one-day retreat or, some other kind of retreat that's going to minister to your soul and give you some time to really reflect and pray, then definitely go for it. It's better than not doing anything at all, because you really do need that chance to check in with God and recharge and resolve to try again. That's what this is. You make resolutions to get up and try again. Now, the hard part is, you make all these resolutions and then you have to go home where it's not quiet and it's not reflective. And, home life pretty much smacks you in the face the minute you walk in the door. So it's helpful then to have people who can help you stay accountable, either prayer groups, study groups. That's part of why I'm going to be building this community of Catholic moms to grow in holiness and to hold each other accountable and to learn the new skills and the mindset and the virtue, so that we can work towards getting to heaven and bringing a lot of people, especially our children, with us. That's the idea. That's the point. So stay tuned for more information about that community. It should be launching soon. I am so excited about it because I think it's going to be a place where people can really grow in wholeness and grow in holiness. So stay tuned for that. In the meantime, go ahead and like this video, share it with other mothers that you think will benefit from this information, and then go digging up retreats that you can go on and planning for. Maybe you need to kind of set aside some money. It's usually a couple, $200-$300 to go for the weekend. So maybe you need to plan. Maybe it won't be this year, but start looking at it for next year if you can't swing it this year. But consider it a call. If you ever thought, I really need to recharge and reset, consider a silent retreat. Even if it means you have to travel a little. We were in Indiana and people came from Minnesota. One lady flew in from Maryland. So not out of the question to have to travel for it. So if you have any questions or you'd like more information, feel free to drop a comment or email me at laura@aplanforjoy.com. And I'm happy to help you in any way I can. So in the meantime, have a good week. I will see you next week, and God bless.